Hello, friends and nonprofit leaders. This is Laura Zelke, your host of the Your Nonprofit Life podcast and videocast. I feel like I say this every single time, but I have a special treat for you today. My guest is a young man who found his life's purpose while pursuing a degree in music at Yale University. He was working towards a career in musical theater. Think Lion King, Broadway, that type of thing. And he enjoyed studying alongside so many talented musicians and artists. He also longed for the chance to collaborate with fellow students and give back, outside of coursework. But he quickly discovered there weren't actually that many opportunities to be found. So, as it often happens with nonprofit founders, my guest decided to take action. And now, just a few years later, chronically ill children are not only writing their own lyrics and melodies, but they're also collaborating with both amateur and professional musicians to produce their own songs and share them with the world. How? Well, that's exactly what you're going to learn in my interview with Dan Rubins, the founder and executive director of Hear Your Song. During our conversation, you'll learn how this organization was originally conceived and how it's evolved over the past few years to be in the perfect position for exponential growth in the immediate future. And let me just say this here and now, prepare to be impressed. This is a truly unique podcast in that not only are you going to get to hear all about Hear Your Song, but you'll also learn the backstory of a few of the kids' songs and listen to actual excerpts which have already been published on YouTube. We're just going to splice them right in. And for those of you who could use an extra dose of encouragement today, and really that's all of us, right? Please listen until the very end, where we share a song packed with the affirmations of a little girl named Violet. She's my hero. Such a treat. Actually, I don't even know why I'm still talking. Let's get straight into the podcast and my interview with the amazing founder of Hear Your Song, Dan Rubins. Hey, have you ever wished you could hear some good news for a change? Well, I might have just what you've been hoping for. Welcome to Your Nonprofit Life, where we remove our rose-colored glasses and explore what leaders are actually doing to move their nonprofits from messy to thriving without burning out in the process. I'm Laura Zelke, Director of Member Experience for the Nonprofit Leadership Lab. Join me each week to explore the ups, downs, and whoopsie daisies of your nonprofit life. Let's get started. Well, hello, Dan Rubins. It is so great to see you today. Thank you for joining me on the Your Nonprofit Life podcast.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
And this is, just for full transparency, this is take two because I accidentally recorded the podcast, about a week ago, and I caught only my voice. It's so embarrassing. So thank you for carving out a second hour to
Absolutely.
record this
My
podcast.
pleasure.
I'm excited. Well, and what I will say is we were celebrating something that day. You just got your 501c3.
We did. We got it about now at this point now, like 2.5 weeks ago. So it's been a really exciting, busy 2.5 weeks of feeling like we can now do all the things, apply for all the grants, and sort of pursue all the connections that we've wanted to. So it's really exciting to be at that point.
Well, there's just something about having, being official.
Yeah.
You've been doing this work for a while, though, and I'm really excited for you to be able to tell the story about Hear Your Song and kind of how it all started. And I just and I'm really also excited because we have samples of some of the songs that you're going to talk about later. And once we get into your story and what you all do, I'm really excited because we'll be sharing one of my favorites. And so let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Hear Your Song?
Great. Well, Hear Your Song empowers kids with serious illnesses and complex health needs to make their voices heard through collaborative songwriting. And the way we do that is we lead songwriting sessions with kids that we reach through children's hospitals or camp programs or other nonprofits that serve kids with specific diagnoses or in specific locations. And we help them write their own lyrics and come up with their own ideas for melody and musical style and what instruments they want. And then we record the song and really try to bring their vision to life. And the goal is really to help these kids see for themselves and to help everyone who listens to the songs and who works with the kids recognize that these kids are so much more than their diagnoses or whatever medical challenges they've gone through, and that their humanity is rich and complex and creative and funny and brilliant. And we want everyone to just be able to celebrate all that they bring every day.
I think it's such a cool idea. You know, I've interviewed different people and I get to know a lot of different nonprofit leaders in the lab. And you know, I know there's a lot of organizations out there that do like music therapy for kids that are sick, and they'll go in and they'll sing to them or they'll play guitars, but this is really different. This is or like they'll go in and do art therapy where they do crafts with them and things like that. But what you're doing is you're actually going in and they're writing songs, like it's their stuff, and then you produce it kind professionally. You produce their work and put it out there.
Yeah, so we talk a lot, especially when we're sort of onboarding new volunteers, about the difference between what we do, which we think of as musical empowerment or empowerment through songwriting, versus music therapy, which is an amazing field. And we're really privileged to work with amazing music therapists in many of our partnerships, but we're not music therapists. And we think of what we're doing, we hope it will be healing for the kids that we work with in some ways, but we're really focused on making them feel that they have control in a situation where they don't often feel that way, and to give them total creative ownership of this process, and also to make them feel that they're connected to a wider community of musicians. So if they say, I really want a trombone in the song, we'll go out into the world and find them a trombonist who will play on the song. So to feel like they're tapping into a world of musical collaborators who are really listening to them and are there to help bring their vision to life.
I just think it's the coolest idea. And so I'm curious, so you're kind of a young guy, you know, compared to me. You're young. And I'm curious, like, how did you come to be at this point in your life? How did you get into nonprofits? Like, was this something that you actually went to school and this was your plan all along? Or like, how did this all happen?
Yeah, no. So I went to college. I went to Yale University thinking originally I was going to be like a Broadway music director and conduct orchestras and things like that. Very quickly realized that wasn't probably what I wanted to be doing. But at school, I felt there was so much competition among composers and musicians and trying to make music that was really good. And I wanted to find a way to sort of bring a community of musicians together, because there were so many talented musicians on campus, and find a way to really collaborate and build a community that was about what our talent collectively could mean, and the good that we could do with our music, which is kind of how the idea for Hear Your Song was born. So it started in 2014 when I was a sophomore. I reached out to a bunch of amazingly talented friends, and they all said immediately, like, let's do it. My co-founder, Rebecca Brudner, who also launched this new chapter of it with me, and I started working with the Elizabeth Seton Children's Pediatric Center in Yonkers, which is a residential program for kids there, as well as we had a longstanding rich partnership with Yale New Haven Children's Hospital, where we'd have volunteers go in, work at bedside with kids, and help them write these songs. And it was always a hope of mine that we'd eventually be able to bring it to other schools and bring it to other communities. And then ultimately, I ended up going into elementary school teaching after college, and I taught elementary school in New York City for a bunch of years. And then really at the start of the pandemic, I was teaching fourth grade online, or about to start doing that after spring break and figuring out what that would look like. And I realized in thinking about sort of all the different areas of need that we were seeing springing up so potently, that this community that I had really thought so much about how to serve when I was in college, and the Yale chapter has continued all the way through. So they've continued their partnership with Yale New Haven and working with kids there. But I realized that suddenly these kids who already were often voiceless, already often isolated, already often really at risk because they're immunocompromised in so many cases, all of that was exacerbated, and that their voices were more in need of being heard than ever. And because everything was suddenly virtual, we had this opportunity to really expand our reach beyond the in-person communities and the in-person programming we had done. So I really kind of pivoted, as a favorite 2020 word, to really building this out with Rebecca, my co-founder. And by the end of last summer, in August, we'd worked with over 50 kids through a camp called Double H Ranch Camp, which is part of the Serious Fun Network, all virtually, and written songs with each of those kids that we produced, and realized that we had so much more room to grow. And we just sort of dove in headfirst, full-time-ish. And now it's basically a year and a bit later since we sort of took that on. And now we have the 501c3, and we have about a dozen partnerships with different programs that we reach kids through. We have 5 campus chapters now, with kids that with students that we're mentoring who are leading their own programs. So that's sort of my sideways in. I definitely never thought I'm going to be a nonprofit leader at this point. It sort of just happened, and definitely a silver lining of the last year for me and for our whole team is that we found a way to really be useful and do work that we wouldn't otherwise have ever been doing at this time.
Well, I think it's such an amazing, it's an amazing mission. I know that you have a passion for helping the sick children who are in the hospitals, but like, how do you find the musicians to help create the songs, and what does that actually look like? Like, do the musicians meet the children? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways that happens. So we have campus-based chapters currently at Yale, Wellesley College, Smith College, CUNY Hunter in New York City, and Dartmouth. And we have a couple more hopefully launching by the fall. And in all of those cases, we've found leaders who are, some of them are pre-med, pre-pediatric, and many of them are composers, musicians, and they help to build and recruit a community of musicians and composers on their campuses who get involved in bringing the songs to life. And we also have just a wider group of over 100 musicians and composers that we've just found, either people we already knew, a lot of people we just found on Facebook groups for composers online who have been like fantastic all over the world, who just sort of appear and are incredible. And so our sessions are led by both volunteers who are really strong musicians and often do the composing themselves or do the recording themselves, and also led by students who might be coming in because they're interested in the pediatric side. And then the songs will be shared after the initial songwriting sessions with composers, musicians who will be sort of matched with whatever the kids want. And our hope really is that by mentoring and by creating these volunteering opportunities for musicians, that they'll be going off and thinking about, how can I use my music for good? How can I use my craft and talent to impact people in a positive way? But we also are hoping that for our pre-med volunteers who are going off to be doctors or nurses or music therapists, that they're really going in with an understanding of how music and storytelling can impact their patients' lives, and also have this sort of direct vision of each kid's humanity, which I think a lot of times in the medical world, kids don't necessarily feel that everyone that they're coming into contact with sort of sees them as a full human being. And we're excited that we have an opportunity to give our volunteers sort of that focused practice.
I just it's kind of like you're doing the full 360 on it, because you've got the children, so you're empowering them, but you're also empowering the musicians and the composers, but then you're also bringing in the medical side of it as well. It's kind of a total package. And did I hear you right when you said worldwide?
Well, we do have some musicians and composers who are working with us from far afield overseas.
Mhm.
We haven't worked with any kids yet outside of the US, but that's something that we would definitely love to do, build more chapters and build more partnerships. Especially because now that we're virtual, there's really nothing holding us back from doing that. All of our sessions in the past year have been on Zoom pretty much. So we're excited if anyone is listening at a hospital or a family or an interested volunteer who's not in the US, we'd love to hear from you too.
Oh, it's exciting. And so we have a few samples, right, that we're going to listen to today. And so I was wondering if possibly we could go ahead and let's listen to one of them. Which one do you want to do first?
Um, let's start with, we have Zippies.
Zippy?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that song?
Sure. So I worked with Zippy last summer to write this song, which is about his love of pasta, which is very strong, as you will hear. And he wanted it to be in the style of the musical Dear Evan Hansen. He also came back with us and is in the process of working with us on a mini musical that he's writing about a zebra who gets cast in The Lion King on Broadway. So stay tuned for that with some special guest star appearances. And yeah, so this is a song that is really just about something Zippy loves. And he'd like everyone to know, we talked to him earlier this year and he wanted people to know that he actually does like peas with pasta, despite what the song says. So I just wanted to make that correction to make sure that his full views on noodles were being represented. But yeah, I think it's a song that kind of speaks for itself, but also indicates kind of that we just want kids to be able to have fun and share whatever in their lives they want to share. And this is really what the most important thing for him that he wanted to talk about.
Okay, here we go. Let's listen to Zippy's song, Noodles.
Rigatoni, mac and cheese, spaghetti, but never ever peas, no. There are some other types, but I don't know their names. When I'm eating noodles, I'm not playing games. Noodles, they're just noodles, they are amazing. Noodles, they're just noodles, they are amazing.
Noodles. They're amazing.
They are amazing.
And never ever peas. So I guess, the kids, you get them at one point and then their
Right.
taste buds evolve.
He'll write a sequel. Yeah. His mom actually sent us a photo for Christmas last year. He got 3 boxes of different pastas as his major gift.
Well, I mean, you got to support those musicians out there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. And so you said he's writing a musical, or
yeah.
like
So he wrote. We had we had 2 sessions with him a couple months ago where we did some really intensive multiple songs, and he wrote like all the narration and the dialogue. And he's a big musical theater fan, so just had like all of these frames of reference and was bringing in ideas from all his favorite shows. And it's really exciting to just be able to sit with a kid and say like, just anything you imagine, like that is the right answer, and just take us wherever you want to go.
Do you think that Zippy would have done this had it not been for that first session with your team, your volunteers, like to be writing a musical and exercising his storytelling that way?
Probably not. I mean, I think he was already super creative and a wonderful singer and performer, but I don't know if he would have thought to sort of express himself in that way. We actually just heard, makes me think we just heard from a parent whose child's song we just released, who said that because of her daughter's illness, she had been a really devoted dancer and then wasn't able to do that, and then wanted to sing, and then ultimately wasn't really able to do that comfortably, and that by writing a song with us had discovered this art form and a way for her to express herself and be engaged with the arts that was something that she was physically able to fully engage with. And her mom was like, how can we do more? How can I help my daughter sort of run with this? Because I think in some ways it can be a metaphor of like voice and expression through song, but it's also like a really literal experience and set of experiences that kids can go and practice and do as something to really engage audiences and engage themselves when often they're limited in other ways. So it's really exciting when we hear that kids want to keep writing songs with us or are writing songs on their own, which happens quite a bit. So yeah.
Right. And so your goal is, it's not necessarily to have a lifelong relationship, although it may end up being that way, that you have alumni, people that kids that you worked with when they were sick, maybe they've gotten better, but they stay connected. And I can it just feels like, even though you're such a baby nonprofit, that this has the longevity. Really, it's going to have a long life and impact, really have an impact all over the world. So kind of cool to be with you. Remember the little people when you're big and famous.
Yeah, I mean, my dream definitely is to have a kid that we've written a song with start their own college chapter when they go to college, because I think we'd love to have people who are participants in the program who then are giving back and see this as a way to support other kids when they grow up. And definitely we're hoping to, one of the great things about being virtual is that we're able to really have multiple sessions with kids, follow up with families. Kids have been able to record their own songs. We'll hear later on Violet's song, which I know you love. Violet sang her own vocals, and so that lets us have more of a back and forth with kids and families and really stay connected, which is something that we really love to not just have like a one-off session, but really get to know the families and the kids and sort of how they grow over time is something that's really exciting for us to begin to be able to see.
Yeah. And it's really clear to me that your organization, it's not transactional. Like, you're not going in saying, okay, we're going to go in, we're going to write a song. Here, give us your lyrics. We're going to put it to music. Okay, thank you. Here's your song. Bye. And you're on to the next. It's not like that. You're actually building relationships with the children, with the families. And really, your volunteers, they must really get a lot out of it. I would think, as a musician, to be able to help a child who's sick to be able to express themselves. What's it like for your volunteers?
Well, I think sort of a quintessential experience or a really beautiful outcome for one volunteer, one of the leaders of our Smith College chapter, after running maybe 2 or 3 virtual sessions in the fall. She's a vocal major and I guess was really wrestling with sort of how to use her music and did she want to try to be a professional singer or what would that look like? And she reached out to us and said, I've realized after doing this, I want to be a music therapist and that's the way that I want to use my music. So I think it has helped some of our volunteers sort of see where they fit in because we're kind of doing multiple things at once, because we're coming at it from the health angle, from the music angle, I mean, for me as an elementary school teacher, there's most of what I'm doing when I leave a session is like 90% of what I was doing in the classroom. So there's a teaching angle too. So I think I think it gives our volunteers a sort of a range of experiences. And also for our chapter leaders, also kind of a leadership launching pad for them to see if they're what they think of being a leader, and organizing other volunteers and bringing other folks into the fold, and sort of coordinating recording processes and things like that, and having kind of professional relationships with the hospitals that they partner with. So we're trying to really build up that volunteer experience, so it's not just like come and work with a kid, now you're done, thanks a lot. So it's not transactional there either, that we're really providing sort of guidance and mentoring as much as we can, so that they feel like they're having really deep experiences as well.
Well, it's like the full, I don't know, I just keep thinking like the 360. It's like, this is it's like a full grown nonprofit. But you're just getting started. And
yeah, I mean, I
can
think
see, the vision is amazing.
The reason for that is that we've sort of had 7 years to think about it. And in our initial 2.5 years before Rebecca and I graduated and passed the Yale chapter on to other students in 2016, we didn't have to worry so much about all the nonprofit stuff outside of programs. So we were able to really sort of richly dive into that. I took a course in college on music service and society, where I wrote a 20-page paper on Hear Your Song and how we wanted to reframe it. So I've gotten to sort of do a lot of theoretical deep dives into it, which is, it's kind of an unusual way in. So I think we had a really clear understanding of what we wanted the programs to be. And now we're figuring out how everything else works. But at least on that end, I feel like we've had a really long runway leading up to our incorporation, I guess.
Yeah. And I should clarify, when I say baby nonprofit, I'm saying the 501c3
right.
is new, but
we are infant on the 501c3 side.
You're an infant on the 501c3, but 7 years old in real life. It's like dog years, right?
Right. Exactly. It is exactly dog years.
Oh, so let's hear one of the other songs. What song would you like to set up for us next?
Great. I guess we can go to Jaden's song,
okay.
Who also wrote this with us last summer. And she did choose to write her song about her medical experience, which we don't encourage kids or ask kids to do ever, but it often just comes up naturally, either as the central topic of a song, or more often just sort of in passing, because medical experiences are just part of these kids' daily lives and sort of integrate into every part of their days. But what I love about this song particularly is that it really approaches this story through the lens of how her mom has been a huge support for her, and how her mom has helped her and guided her, and what she feels she sort of owes to her mom because of that, and what that love looks like. So it's really a song about family and how families support each other through really hard situations. So yeah, this is Jaden's song, sung by Sid Bakal, who's a great singer-songwriter.
All right, here we go. And Jaden's song is called Tunnels.
We are headed to Pittsburgh to meet my new doctors. There are long tunnels on the way. I'm so scared and worried, but my mommy says there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I see the light. I think of spending time with my family and having fun, and think of Christmas time.
Wow. Interesting to hear the children kind of reflect on their own experience in the song. And so this was actually, the lyrics are Jaden's, but you had one of your volunteers that sang it.
Yeah. So Jaden wrote the lyrics, and then based on what she shared that she wanted the song to sound like, we found a songwriter or composer who we felt like was the right match for that. So when we're able to do, sort of depending on the kid, depending on the partnership, we've recently had a lot of kids who are writing their own music too. So I actually think this next one, Will's song, is an example of he's 17, he lives in Georgia, and we worked with him through Mito Action, which is an awesome nonprofit based out of Michigan, but it has, I think, global reach to kids and adults with mitochondrial disorders. So we've worked with now, I think, about a dozen kids through Mito Action. And Will is already a really accomplished songwriter, but he was looking for kind of help and guidance on getting this song out. So he worked really closely with one of our volunteers for like 3 hours maybe, or 4 hours over multiple sessions to really basically like write every note of it. And this is a great example too, that sometimes kids just write songs that sound like they could be on the radio. I mean, both Noodles could be on the radio, but probably should be on the radio. But this is a song that just is like, it's a song about heartbreak and teen experience. He ultimately decided he wanted other people to sing it, but he has an amazing voice too. And he's also been able to, because he's a little older and has an Instagram, he's been able to connect with the folks who recorded it through Instagram and sort of have be able to thank each other for the experience, which has been really nice. So here's Will's song.
Okay, thank you. And Will's song is called "How Do I Get Over You?" Okay, how do I get over you? Yes, it takes me back to teenage years. Yes, it does. All right, here we go.
I'm terrified of what lies inside. Why did I get close to you? Now I'm stuck on you. What do I do? How do I get over you?
You remember I cried when we said goodbye on that stormy Tuesday night.
It's probably good that that song wasn't out when I was a teenager. I would have probably played. I would have like, well,
Broken
the vinyl. I was going to say,
Yeah,
break the record. The record would have scratches
Yeah.
on it, but people probably don't even know what records are anymore. So let's just not even go there. But yeah, what a lovely song. And so he's someone who kind of, like you said, he's a little bit older. Do you have a specific age range that you often work with when you're doing these types of things?
Yeah, I mean, our age range is 6 to 18, so basically like through high school. And I would say, I mean, it really runs the full range. I don't think there's sort of a particular age range that we work with the most. And you can kind of have totally different experiences at all those ages. And I really love, I mean, my background is as an elementary school teacher, so I love helping kids sort of 11 and below help like realize that they are like full creative beings. But it's amazing to work with teenagers who have already sort of found their voice and are just like, let me share that with you, or wow, I didn't know that anyone wanted to listen. So it kind of can work in different ways with different ages, but it's really, I found, and I think our volunteers find, that it's an equally rich experience sort of all the way through. And the other thing that's great about teenagers is that they often are thinking already about how are they giving back and sort of who's listening. And when we've worked with kids who are teens at camp programs, they want to write songs that can be sort of shared within their camp community, like sort of selflessly like giving their song space to something that can be like a camp song that can be shared and help other kids. We worked with an 18-year-old who's going to college next year to be a child life specialist. And she wanted to write her song about how she sees her experience with her mitochondrial disorder as an opportunity to give back and help others, and sort of how she does that through music and through this career that she is planning. So every age definitely comes with its own set of riches, I guess.
Yeah, and we're gonna listen to one by probably the youngest one in this
Of this group, yeah.
this group that you've shared with me. But I'm saving that for the end.
Okay.
So before we get to Violet's song, I wanted to talk just a little bit about what it's been like for you, because when we look at your story as far as getting the 501, like creating the official nonprofit
Yeah.
part, really kind of got launched during the pandemic. And so I'm curious how that has, worked out for you as far as, are things going the way that you thought they would, or what's that been like?
Yeah, so when we launched, obviously we were doing so in response to the pandemic, and we anticipated being virtual, and we anticipated sort of the challenges initially of connecting with hospitals, which were obviously and still are under so much pressure and or really in crisis at that point. I think we still didn't anticipate sort of the long tail of the pandemic, so we were hoping that our new chapters that were starting up in the fall would be in person by January. So what that meant, since there are still no hospital volunteers in person, is that we had to really create virtual volunteering opportunities for our chapters. But I think that ended up being kind of great for two reasons. One, because it meant that we ended up partnering with incredible nonprofit organizations like Mito Action, like the Hang Tough Foundation, which is in Tallahassee, like CDH Stars and Angels, which serves kids with congenital diaphragmatic hernias. We're working with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation over the summer. And we wouldn't have needed to sort of find more kids if we had sort of active hospital partnerships. And we've realized that there are these incredible nonprofits that are reaching kids throughout their whole journeys, whether they're in treatment, whether they're in the hospital, whether they're survivors, whether they're recovering. And that's given us so much more geographic and just broad reach. So that's been one way in which we've sort of dealt with this situation, but we also have been able to really have a much more hands-on mentoring relationship with the volunteers, that if they were going into their local hospitals, as we hope they will in the fall, we can't be there for every session, but to be able to really see our volunteers in action and debrief after with them, talk, kind of model for them sometimes, talk through what their experiences were like, and really help them grow as songwriting session leaders. That's been super valuable, and something that they'll now be able to pass on to their new volunteers who may be starting hopefully in person at hospitals local to them once those partnerships get launched next year. Right,
because that's actually, not everyone is comfortable going into a hospital to do something like that, or to go in and, maybe they have the talent and they have the desire, but just having that bedside manner, maybe.
Yeah. And I think our model also can sometimes be a little, I don't know if intimidating is the right word, but you don't really know what it's like until you do it, because basically the core of our whole programming is about flexibility and responsiveness to the kids, and really saying whatever the kid throws at you, like run with that, follow that. And it's hard to say exactly what that looks like until you get into it. And I think I had like a whole number of sessions in a row with new volunteers where everyone I was like, oh, well, they don't usually go like that. Oh, they don't usually go like that. Oh, they don't usually go like that. And then I realized like they never go the same way, because every kid is different. And if we're really listening to them and really following them, we just did a session 2 weeks ago with a girl in Michigan who wrote her song about having epilepsy, and she plays the trumpet and is a tap dancer. So she wanted it to be a jazz number where she will tap dance on the recording and someone will play the trumpet. And it's actually about the things that she likes about having epilepsy. So it's kind of like a fun, jazzy number about epilepsy, which you sort of have to just like roll with when you're working with a kid who's throwing things at you that you just don't expect. on the instrument level, on the subject matter level. So we were like, yeah, get your tap shoes on. I'll play piano. Another volunteer will sing, and like you'll tap dance, and we'll imagine what the trumpet will sound like, and we'll make it happen. So I think getting to sort of show volunteers what that's like before they kind of jump in for themselves has been really valuable.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, I want you to set up this next song. Obviously, we've kind of hinted at it the whole time, but I do love this song. I love it, and mainly because I need it. I need it in my life. But tell us about Violet's song.
Yeah, so Violet lives in Ohio. We worked with her through a camp called Flying Horse Farms, which is part of the Serious Fun Network. And at the beginning of her session, she said she wanted to write a song about gerbils. She has 2 gerbils, which she did write a song about her gerbils, but then her mom also said she actually has another idea that she wanted to share with you. And she has these affirmation statements that she says to herself: I am kind, I am smart, I am sassy, I am beautiful. And she wanted to create a song that would feature those, that she could listen to sort of as a reminder of all those strengths that she has. So we came up with the idea that it would be her own voice on it, and it would be kind of a call and response where she would say an affirmation, and then it would get sung back to her by, in this case, Tally, who is one of our other Smith College chapter leaders. And so we were kind of trying this out, doing like a pilot run of it on one of her, she did multiple sessions, one of her sessions. And I thought she was just going to speak the words, but she actually ended up just singing it over the piano part that one of our volunteers was playing. And it was really just like the stunning moment where she has this beautiful, like a small but really strong and beautiful voice. And so she would sing a line, and then Tally, who's like a college vocal star, would sing it back to her. And it really felt to me like this 9-year-old's voice being sort of echoed by an older version of herself, who was saying like, yes, we are, like, I am beautiful, and like you're gonna look back and like realize how extraordinary you were and are. And I think so it sort of, to me, it carries a lot of power in that exchange. And of course also just in hearing Violet's own voice is so powerful as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so with no further ado, here's an excerpt. And I will say that I have permission to play the entire song at the end of the podcast. So but here's the excerpt.
I am fierce.
I am fierce.
I am smart.
I am smart.
I'm determined.
I am determined.
I am kind.
I am kind.
I'm creative.
I am creative.
I'm sassy.
I am sassy.
I am thoughtful.
I am sassy. That's like that's my new mantra. I love it. I love the work that you're doing. I love just the creativity that goes into these. Each one is so different. Like if you think about it, we just heard a song from a little girl singing these affirmations in a call response. We started with a song about noodles, you know, and I know Noelani on our team, she said one of her favorite ones, she said you have one about farts.
Yes,
That's hilarious.
The Trent song is like a limerick about, yes.
And the thing is, there's all these different, and you have a bunch of them up on your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, so we've now written over, I think, close to 175 songs with kids.
Wow. Wow.
And we're expecting to get close to doubling that, I think, by the end of the year or the summer.
Yeah.
We have a lot of partnerships coming up. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree that, and I think it makes sense, right? That if you're really listening to kids and trying to capture their imagination in music, nobody's song should sound the same, because my experience as a teacher and now doing Hear Your Song is that no kid's imagination or creativity is the same. So I'm really glad that you hear that uniqueness as you listen to some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really that it's just a beautiful organization that you've created, Dan. It's
Thank you.
beautiful, and to hear your heart, as an elementary school teacher and musician and just really wanting to have it be a positive experience for the children. I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown, and I kind of try and mention her at least once every podcast if I can remember to, like someday maybe I'll get to meet her. I don't know. But one of the things that she talks about in her books is how it's that creative spirit that often gets crushed in children in school because of a comment that somebody makes, a comment that a teacher makes, or they're in art class and somebody demeans the work. And so for you to be going into the hospitals or even virtually or to people's homes, if their kids are chronic, and to be able to not only listen to them, but like not critique what they're saying, not say do this to make it better. I don't know that I could be a volunteer with it, although I would love to, but I always tend to see, okay, we can change this or we can do this to make it better. And you really have to kind of harness that, right? That like if you're a person who does that, you would have to really tamp that down a bit to be able to let the child lead the way.
Yeah, and I mean, as for me as a composer and a lyricist, I'm like really, really on myself, really strict about like perfect rhymes and rhyme schemes and things like that and meter. And one of the challenges for our composers is that we are really firm. Like if a kid didn't rhyme, don't put a rhyme in. Like that's not their language.
Right.
That's not their way that they expressed it. And really, and one of the things that's great, and some of the reasons the songs sound pretty funky, is that trying to figure out how to make kids' words fit the meter, fit the music, leads to all sorts of like crazy musical things, which I think is great for the composers too, to be like, what does it actually mean to like listen to someone clearly enough and carefully enough that my music might sound different than anything I've ever written before, because it has to fit like their imagination.
Right. And what's interesting? So I have one of my favorite artists is Alanis Morissette, and she has done she's just very unique singer-songwriter. I love singer-songwriters. That might be part of why I'm just so thrilled with your organization, because I really like listening to singers who write their own music. And she got turned down from a recording agency. They would not publish her songs because they didn't rhyme. And so she ended up, and I don't remember the full story, but it's part of her. She's got like a bonus, interview that goes with her latest album, Such Pretty Forks in the Road. And she shares that story. And I was like, wow, you don't realize that even publishers are, they have a certain way that they want you to sound. And that's why her music is so different, because it doesn't rhyme. But it's great. It's great. And so the fact that you're giving these kids an opportunity to put out music that doesn't rhyme or that doesn't have that perfect meter, what?
Yeah.
And it stretches the musicians, it stretches the kids. It really is like you're providing such a great experience for the kids, but also for the volunteers. I love it. And I do have a question. How do you raise money to be able to do this?
So at this point, we're raising money through individual donations. And now that we have a 501c3, starting to pursue grants. I definitely recommend, we got funding through the Pollination Project, which is an awesome program.
Oh, great.
That I definitely, if anyone's listening who doesn't have their 501c3 yet, that's an amazing way to get some initial funding. And they've been fantastic and connected us with some other organizations that have been really helpful. Yeah, but if anyone is listening and would like to help us sort of launch our first fiscal year and support us getting to more kids and bringing more songs to life, you can support at our website, www.hearyoursong.org. But I also should just plug that the other sort of piece of our mission that I haven't gotten to speak about that much yet is that we are striving to share the songs in a way that will help to shift the perception of what kids are capable of, and that, as we've talked about, that kids with chronic illnesses and other health needs are so much more than their diagnoses. So I would love for anyone listening to visit our Instagram, Hear Your Song HYS, or our YouTube channel, and really just kind of dive into the songs, share one you love with someone who you think might find it meaningful, because we really just want people to hear the songs and listen to the kids' voices and stories.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll put links to everything on the show notes page so that people can get in touch with you through your website, follow you on social media. We'll hook it up to the YouTube channel. I'll make sure to feature or at least put links to the ones that we sampled here in the podcast, and also the farts one just for Noelani. So you have quick and easy access. Dan, I can't thank you enough for spending your time with me again today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laura. There's nowhere else I would rather be twice.
Oh, goodness. Well, I will say that I'm excited to watch this organization grow. It's one of the little highlights in the lab to see someone that is, just really taking it to the next level, and really the next level. Like, you guys are just on it, and it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and I'm excited. So thank you again for your time, and I will see you in the village.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
I am strong. I am sunshine. I am beautiful. I am brave. Violet.
Thanks for listening. To access the show notes or share feedback on this podcast and link over to our socials, visit our website at yournonprofitlife.com. That's yournonprofitlife.com. And hey, if you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you're going to love The Village. It's our exclusive online community where we take what we're learning in the Nonprofit Leadership Lab and apply it. We take it to the next level with live Q&As, boot camps, online book clubs, and legit support from experts committed to helping you extend your nonprofit life. By the way, since we're just getting started, it would mean the world to us if you'd subscribe to the podcast and leave a great review on iTunes. The reviews will help us get the podcast in front of more people as we try to take the whole sector from messy to thriving. See you next time.